We're back now with the men's single round of 32. We've got two terrific players here, Len, with Mark Hazinski, member of the 2004 Olympic team that played in Athens, Greece. He's going up against Paul David of New York, very strong player from Latin, or actually the Caribbean, does a lot of coaching in the New York area, basically a full-time player coach. I know he's worked with a lot of younger students, and he's here trying to go as deep into the draw as possible. Mark, the top seed in men's singles coming out of Texas Wesleyan, and we're right about to begin.
Again, this is why they're going to play the match, because on paper, you might think you know who's going to win.
Paul David really has an exceptional backhand, also known for a very strong backhand serve. Mark, very powerful on the forehand side, mixes up his serves. Often reminded me a little bit of Jim Butler in his variation on his forehand serve. You're really never sure whether he's going inside out, short, or deep fast to the backhand. But heavy, heavy topspin, moves well for a tall player.
He has that in comparison to Jim Butler. They're both tall, very tall.
Exactly, that's a great observation. Mark has made the finals a number of times, has never been able to kind of get that final monkey off his back. However, as the top seed right now, without the David Zhuangs or the Ilya Lupulescu's who've taken the titles from him in the past, I'm sure he's very eager to return to the finals if possible. But first he's got to deal with a very impressive Paul David.
And so this is a best of 7.
Exactly. So the players that we've seen so far in the rating events and the age divisions have been playing best of 5. This is men's championship singles, so they will be playing the best of 7. They'll still only be allowed 1 timeout per match.
But this definitely tests your endurance.
Right. You're going to have to be thinking not necessarily a full marathon, but it's not a sprint. You're going to have to work for all 4 games. But there you see the backhand serve of Paul David. He really changes the spin well, loads up the variation. Mark just very happy to get that first offensive attack going after the serve.
Paul wearing a knee brace, I see.
Yeah, Paul David's had some knee issues in the past, and I'm not sure if it's more of just a protective situation. I don't think he's necessarily injured it, but he's had some stability issues. And I mean, really one of the guys in the New York City area, if you're looking for a very disciplined and very encouraging coach, I know he has a large number of juniors he's working with, and he'll play out of the Spin Club in New York. Sometimes they have their Dirty Dozen on Friday night, but he's also worked at various clubs around the town.
Nine, 6, Mark. And there Paul took his backhand to open up.
And that's where the power of Hazinski comes in. Can use that leverage of his height to get his forehand going.
Making it a close game. It's now 10-9. Nice shot.
Beautiful play by Hazinski going down the line, taking that first game on the final point. You know, with Paul David. He plays out of New York, but he's often representing Guyana in the World Championships. He's played in the Commonwealth Games. He's a former junior champion from the country of Guyana. And I know he's always eager to play internationally, and it's kind of a neat treat to be able to do both, is to play in the U.S. Nationals. He got his citizenship recently, but I'm guessing he's holding dual citizenship, and he can still play for his homeland of Guyana. And if you're interested, just check out on his website. You can go to pauldavidcoach.com if you want to hook up with him in New York. And as I said, great with the youngsters, really knows the game well, and full-time table tennis professional. But right now he has his hands full with Mark Hazinski of Texas Wesleyan and the top seed of this event.
It is nice to see an individual be able to earn a living in the sport of table tennis. Hopefully more and more continue to do that. That hit the net and kind of threw Mark off a little bit.
And there's that inside-out serve that Hazinski is really well known for at the top national level, moving it around and just getting that first loop in. Paul David really needs to keep his serve short. He loads up the backhand serve, but if it goes long, Mark's going to really jump on it. It's not enough just to spin the heck out of the ball. You've got to keep it short. Otherwise, you will be giving up the first attack. And Mark, again, heavy topspin. A little short, but because it's dropping,
loaded.
Once it touches the table, it's bouncing straight downward. A little inside out.
Oh.
And that's one of those serves that when those people are using that banana flip, that can be kind of a negator as it comes right over the net, short to the forehand side, and you really can't get under that ball as well.
Nice little flip.
And just to keep our fans updated, the other round of 32 players that are going on to the table next to us, which the winners will face off. Billy Ding of Seattle has taken the first game from Xiao Yu, a world team member of New York City. So the winner of the Hazinski David match.
Oh, nice shot.
Excellent play here. So we're beginning to get into the later rounds, and you're seeing the top stars come out and represent their club and region very strong. Mark with a tremendous over-the-table flip. That 6'4" frame really allows for much easier short ball. Nice backhand loop, just really taking that somewhat high serve by Paul David. Needs to lower that a little bit.
Truthfully, in the last year or so, we haven't heard much from Mark, so he's kind of come back, hasn't he?
Yeah, Mark is a student at Texas Wesleyan. I think he's been focusing on his studies primarily. I believe he's a senior with maybe another semester. And there's game number 2 quite comfortably. Mark has hit his stride on the last couple of points, but he's getting close to that graduation time. I know he's thinking about post-college table tennis, as he's been such a strong main person at the Texas Wesleyan program, winning the national title a number of times. He's in his court with wife Sarah Fu Hazinski, getting some advice between this short break. But I've had a chance to talk with Mark, and just a very low-key, easygoing player. I think he would make an excellent coach, just because he doesn't really get that excited. Sometimes some of the players or the officials have thought like that might have hurt him a little bit, that he needed to pump up more, but I mean, a little bit of more of the Bjorn Borg mentality of staying calm, not letting anything rile him. And I know from a coaching perspective, as a player, that's often nice to have the coach not get more nervous than the player when you come back for a tip. So we'll see if he's able to continue to play more, but maybe also share some of that great experience and knowledge he has as a world team member, Pan Am team member, and an Olympian from Athens.
Wow.
And we know he's still shooting for that elusive men's singles title that he's been so close to so many times.
Well, he has the proverbial target on his back as he is the top seed.
We heard earlier when you were talking to Jim Butler, Len, that he feels that Hazinski and Timothy Wong are the co-favorites. And you can see here with Mark's game the reason why. Just very good control throughout the match, not really being forced to do anything he's uncomfortable with.
That might be an extremely interesting match, Butler against Marvin. In they're both tall. They're both one and two.
Yeah, battle of the giants.
Yep.
And their serves and the fact that they both have very strong backhands. While Jimmy's putting the ball through you, Mark's backhand block is so steady. I think forehand to forehand, Mark has the slight advantage. But I think experience-wise, I'd have to go with Butler, even though he's had a small hiatus. They're going to remind Paul David to toss that ball up 6 inches. Oh, great rally there, but Mark getting the better end of that.
I think at one shot in there, he was a little caught off balance, and he gave kind of a unusual movement, but he got the ball back and won the point.
And sometimes being in scramble mode shows where you really are footwork-wise, as well as the ability to transition. So these inside-out serves that Mark's doing. Oh, wonderful play by Paul David. Not only did Mark play it perfectly to Paul David's elbow, but Paul David was able to take it back with a heavy topspin. Almost seemed like he knew where Mark was going on that ball. Paul David really loves to return the serve with his backhand. That is his favorite shot, and Hazinski being able to serve inside out, short to his forehand, has kind of taken that away. But we'll see if Hazinski can kind of get it going right now. Paul David's definitely doing more of what he wants in game number 3. That serve going a little bit too long. He's got to keep it short. Mark able to open up on every ball that comes off the end of the table. Oh, and there's a serve. Not sure if that was a poor toss or a overly aggressive contact, but not even close.
In these 11-point games, it's so darn important. I mean, that's 10% of the game.
And right now, Mark trailing 5-7. He does not want to have to play any games unnecessarily. And there's a fault. That's the second time that the umpire has seen a close call, short or low toss. And I would have to agree with the umpire. That serve didn't get tossed up so high. Paul's very close on that serve. It's often a 5.5, maybe a 6-inch toss. And clearly when he wants to keep that ball short and low, it becomes even shorter.
And his adrenaline is definitely pumping, so it's harder even still to keep it short.
Mark having a little bit of an issue with his own serve, just trying to keep it short, but there's that inside out, a very strong backhand. Mark comfortable opening up on the backhand both down the line, and then when Paul makes a nice return, Mark can spin it up if Paul's ball goes a little bit long. I wouldn't suggest that Mark continue to do that to Paul, because Paul's backhand is where he really wants to be. He can take it off the bounce, whether it's short or long.
Currently 8-8. There you go.
Now Paul's got to be thinking about the toss. Still pretty borderline.
Yes,
I
very.
think the umpire is giving him probably an inch or two leeway. But as we get to the end of the game, I'm sure it'll be. Now that looks a little bit better, but it's still, I wouldn't say it's more than 7. It's probably like at 5.5.
But it's 6. So difficult. I mean, it's so difficult, 6 inches. I mean, it's really difficult.
You know, one of the umpires told me, let's see what happens here at 9-all. Very good opening by Hazinski. just getting that first heavy topspin in. Paul David's defense isn't quite the same on both sides of the table, yet he has to cover both. Beautiful point by both these great players. Paul David being forced to go to the left hand as Hazinski has him running all over the court.
And he got back, mind you, an edge.
What a great fight on the final point for Hazinski to go up 11-9. That just shows you the determination of Paul David not wanting to give away even 1 point, switching hands, covering the entire court. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a coach in his corner to share with that great moment. But excellent play from both of these players. On the subsequent table number 2, a little bit of a surprise with the junior Billy Ding from Seattle, now up 2-0 against world team member Xiao Yu. Up 2-0 on Xiao Yu of New York, and currently 6-4. So we might have a little bit of an upset for the winner of the Hazinski-David match in the quarterfinals.
No match is easy at this level.
It looks like they're changing balls. They had to change balls on table 1, so giving the players a chance to hit 1 or 2, and now we're ready for the action. Hazinski with a 3-0 in-game lead and the serve.
And I imagine that Mark would like to close it out here, not having to put any wasted effort.
Absolutely, Len. I think the easier the matches are, he can go out and continue to practice. He doesn't need table time, but just making sure he's not out there in a vulnerable position where somebody might come back, put pressure on. But Paul David will not be giving up. I can promise you that. He is a fighter and will play to the very end. Just seems that once they get into the extended rallies that Mark has a little more power on his side of the net, as well as his backhand going down the line exposes Paul David's forehand a little bit.
And you can just see the way the contact and the spin is just immense by Mark.
And Mark is so comfortable with that opening. He's not really forcing it, he's just spinning it up, but he knows he can go in so many locations with it that Paul David's going to have to play a defensive shot. Mark reminding himself to move his feet. You know, Lynn, sometimes at this tournament where we have some of the courts having the red carpet, and other times you might be forced to play on the cement, going back and forth between the two can sometimes be a little challenging because one has a lot of grip, the other one has a lot of give. So hopefully in men's singles they'll pretty much be stuck on the red flooring right now.
Well, people always seem to say in a big hall the ball plays differently on the table, on cement it plays differently, and then the opposite. I hear a lot of people say, well, come on, it's a little tiny ball, it can't make much difference, but it does, and it certainly mentally does, so that translates to physically does.
Absolutely. I think in the big hall, the one thing that a lot of players end up doing is overhitting because their point of reference isn't a wall, maybe 15 feet behind them, but stands 50 feet or 100, so you really lose that depth perception and you try to hit the ball a little bit harder thinking that you need to go through something, whereas in the basement or garage, those shots seem to have a bigger echo, and when you hit them hard, you can really hear them. Out here, you don't hear it, so you tend to overhit just a little bit. So
yeah, so that's mental more than.
Yeah, physically, there's. I mean, it's still a ball, same height, same weight, same size. Table still 9 by 5.
10-3, Mark's up, and this would be match point. So let's see what he does. Serve with a side under right to the middle of the table. Paul puts it in the net for the victory for Mark Hazinski. 4 games straight, 11-3.
Very strong performance by the Texas Wesleyan team member.